Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for my June TBR. Honestly, looking at this list, the majority of these authors are already familiar to me, and some of them are sequels as well, so I'm really excited for this month. So anyway, the first book on this list is called Glorious Poison. For those who don't know, this book comes out June 9th, and I'm so excited for it. This book is one of my most anticipated 2022 new releases, because the second book in this trilogy was one of my favorites of last year, and this trilogy is going to be so good. So anyway, naturally I have very, very high expectations for this third book in this series. It's a YA historical fantasy, and two of the main characters are sapphic, and we love to see it. I love the world building, I love the plot, I love these characters, I love the sapphic romance, I love everything about this series so far. So this sequel better live up to my expectations because I'm absolutely so excited. The first book in the series was so good, and the second book, like I mentioned, it was one of my favorites of last year, so it was also so amazing. So anyway, with all that said, I'm really excited for this book, and like I said, it comes out June 9th. The next book on this list comes out the 14th of June, and it's called The Midnight Orchestra. This book is a middle-grade fantasy, and it's the second book in the Mystwick School of Music Craft, which is where a young girl attends a boarding school where they teach her how to create magic out of music, which I think is such an interesting and unique, creative idea, and the author pulled it off so well in the first book that I'm absolutely so excited to read this sequel. I love middle-grade fantasy, as you all know, and I also love stories with academic settings, as you all know, because I think it's so cool and absolutely so fascinating, because I love academic settings like in real life, so seeing them in fantastical settings just makes them so much more like cool and innovative. Anyway, the first book in the series was so good, and this author is absolutely so talented at writing middle-grade fantasy. In fact, one of her other middle-grade fantasy stories is on my August TBR. But anyway, this book comes out the 14th of June, and I'm so excited for it, and I have such high expectations, because the first book was absolutely so awesome. So anyway, with all that said, keep your eyes peeled for the 14th of June. The next book on this list is called The Blood Traitor. For those who don't know, this book also comes out the 14th of June, and it's a YA fantasy sequel, and it's the third book in the Prison Hero trilogy. And the Prison Hero was one of my almost favorites of 2021, so naturally I have very, very high expectations for this third book, and honestly, I have no idea what to expect, because I don't know how the author is going to wrap everything up, tease new things, wrap up the old cliffhangers that she left off of in the second book, and just like make me fall in love with these characters all over again, because literally this trilogy is so good so far. The first two books were so good and so solid and really awesome, with like an amazing world, an amazing plot, and amazing characters, and romance, and family brother dynamics, and everything like that. You know what I mean? So anyway, with all that said, I'm very, very excited for this third book, because I have no idea what will happen next. So yeah, with all that said, I'm really, really excited for this book. It comes out the 14th of June, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book on this list is called Valiant Ladies. This book also comes out the 14th of June, and it's a YA historical fiction story that follows a pair of Latinx Peruvian lesbians in the 17th century. And this book is the only one on this list that's written by an unfamiliar author. I'm so excited for this book because, first of all, historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, and second of all, I've been trying to diversify the historical fiction books that I read, so this book is right up my alley, as it's about lesbians and Peruvian lesbians in the 17th century. I mean, that sounds so cool and absolutely so awesome. I can count on one hand the amount of queer, sapphic, historical fiction books that I've read that have been really good. You know what I mean? Like, this book sounds like it's going to be so cool and so awesome, and I've heard that it's based on like something real, which sounds so cool, and I will have to research it after I read this book if I really enjoy it, which I hope I really do, because it sounds so cool and absolutely so awesome. So anyway, with all of that said, this book comes out the 14th of June, and I'm really looking forward to it. The next book on this list is called This Wicked Fate. For those who don't know, this book comes out the 21st of June, and it's a YA urban fantasy sequel to This Poison Heart, which was a YA urban fantasy retelling of The Secret Garden, written by the same author of Cinderella is Dead. And frankly, I preferred This Poison Heart over Cinderella is Dead, so naturally I have very, very high expectations for the sequel. Literally, I'm so excited to see where the author is going to take me with the romance specifically, but also with so many other elements. Honestly, I don't quite remember how This Poison Heart ended since I read it like a year ago, but I know that the sequel is going to be so good and so awesome because the first book was so great in so many different elements, especially the black sapphic representation, but also in like the plot and the world building and the characters and like everything like that. This book is going to be so good and absolutely so awesome. So anyway, with all of that said, this book comes out the 21st of June, and I'm really, really excited for it. The next book on this list is called Sometime in Summer, and this book comes out the 28th of June, and it's a YA magical realism contemporary, and I'm absolutely so excited for it. This author is literally so talented. Her last magical realism contemporary YA book, Summer of Salt, was one of my favorites of 2020, so naturally I have very, very high expectations for this book, but also I've read so many of her books before in the past, so I trust that this book will be no exception to her lyrical, pretty storytelling. And also I've heard that this story reads on like the younger side of YA, which I have no problem with because first of all, I'm very, very familiar with middle grade stories, and also second of all, I've loved Katrina Leno's middle grade stories in the past because I've read her middle grade stories before I ever started reading her YA stories. So anyway, with all that said, I'm so excited for this book because it sounds so awesome and absolutely so cool. And I believe a bookstore is incorporated into the plot, so we love to see it. Anyway, with all that said, this book comes out at the end of June, and I'm very, very excited for it. The last book on this list, and hopefully not the least, also comes out the 28th of June, and it's called The Dream Runners. This book is a YA South Asian fantasy that's written by the same author of Stardaughter, and if I'm not mistaken, it's also set in the same world, so it's considered a companion novel. I know for sure that it's not a sequel, but anyway, Stardaughter was literally so good. It is absolutely so awesome. So naturally, I have very, very high expectations for this book. I love reading fantasy, as you all know, since fantasy is my #1 favorite genre, and I also love reading fantasy stories where authors incorporate their own culture into their stories, and Stardaughter was exactly like that. So I'm so excited to read more from the South Asian author about her South Asian culture. I don't remember specifically which South Asian country Stardaughter focused on, but I think it was like Hindu mythology. But anyway, with all that said, I'm so excited to read this book because it sounds so good, it looks so good, and I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, with all that said, keep your eyes peeled for the 28th of June. So, in conclusion, I'm really looking forward to this month of June because all these books sound like they'll be really good. So anyway, with all of that said, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the hippo emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!